The Minister of Communication Technology, Dr. Omobola Johnson, has indicated plans to commercialize NIPOST as questions are being raised whether the federal government plans to sell the agency following the privatization of several other agencies of government in the country.
There are a number of things that are going on right now in terms of ICT and governance. You mentioned taxation. So the FIRS has deployed the technology, basically allowing Nigerians to have a unique tax identification number. They are actually using ICTs and this is not at the federal level only, at the state level, that ICTs are being used to actually collect the taxes. So different state governments have their different tax cards that they use to collect tax on behalf of the state. If you go back to the federal government, the Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPIS, that's the way that we're now paying salaries to civil servants. And I'm sure you'd have heard the Coordinating Minister of the Economy talk about how that has saved us. So there really is a much bigger realization of how really ICTs can help to drive transparency and accountability and efficiency in government. So I've talked about IPIS. Even the way that we do our budget right now, it's actually a fully automated system. The way that payments are made to the ministries and the way ministries then pay contractors, it's all done through ICTs. I'm not saying that we've completed the task. It's not done yet. We have an e-government master plan that is looking at how we can even leverage ICTs more to support this transparency, accountability, and the efficiency that technology brings into government.
You talked about a master plan. Do you have an ICT master plan?
Oh yes, we do. We have what I would call 3 major plans that we have articulated in the last 4 years or so. The first was the ICT policy when the ministry was created. And really for the first time, we're looking at, before we used to look at ICTs differently, information technology and then communication technology. So the first time in this country, we have a national ICT plan that looks at ICT policy that really states government's intent as far as the ICT sector or the ICT industry is concerned. We then have a broadband policy, and it's even more than a policy there. It's actually a national broadband strategy and roadmap that not only says how we're going to deliver broadband to the majority of Nigerian citizens, but it also has in there milestones, how we're going to deliver it, when we're going to deliver it, and the kind of broadband Nigerian or internet connectivity Nigerians should expect. And that was done in collaboration with the industry. The third major policy document is the local content plan. And that's because, this is a sector that's growing very fast. But when we looked at it, when we assessed the sector in 2011, it was a sector that was really dominated by multinationals and international companies. And we felt that we have to create a level playing field for there to be many more Nigerian companies participating in this sector, hardware, software, services, skills development, all of that. And so the local content policy is really an articulation of how we will create a level playing field and enable there to be many more Nigerian companies and Nigerian multinationals potentially really operating in the ICT space. And those are the 3 policies that are driving everything that we do in the sector.
Still talking e-governance, recently ministries, departments and agencies were urged to adopt ICT in the disbursement of their fund. And how did that come about and how much involvement did your ministry have in that?
I think if you look at in the past, probably 5 or 6 years ago, every ministry had a way that they would pay their contractors or pay their staff. Probably even longer than that, they would pay their staff. And when you're dealing with cash or manual means of payment, then of course you can imagine all the leakages and the abuses that come about as a result of using physical cash. So really, when you're talking about transparency and accountability, the best way to accomplish that is ICT. So like I said, online payments. We don't pay any of our contractors, and I think that applies to all ministries. No contractors are paid by cash anymore. It's a transfer, a bank-to-bank transfer. Even payments from the CBN to agencies where CBN does the payment, or from finance to ministries, all of that is done online. And what it does, it just removes the possibility of manual intervention and the leakages that come about as a result. So that is a major push that is being managed by government right now. And that's the platform that I think you're saying that CBN is also pushing, which is really important where you're trying to drive transparency in government.
The federal government has always talked about creating jobs for the unemployed, and in 2013, your ministry actually launched the National ICT Incubation Program, tagged Idea for Entrepreneurs. To what extent has that program actually helped in assisting entrepreneurs in the country?
So let me just take you back a little bit to set the context. So the ICT industry is growing very fast. There are tremendous opportunities for people with different kinds of skills, low-end skills, the network engineers, to the people that do software development, all the way down to people that work in call centers. So the ICT industry provides tremendous opportunities for job creation. And what we have done is really not to say we're going to create jobs. We're not going to create the jobs simply because, first of all, this is a fully liberalized industry, so it's really run by the private sector. Our role is just regulation and policy development. But what we did was to intervene in what I'd call a catalytic manner. So what you're talking about, the idea, which is the Information Technology Developers Entrepreneurs Accelerator, is an accelerator and an incubation hub where we have encouraged young Nigerian software developers to come into those hubs. They would develop with a software idea, and then take that idea through mentorship, fast internet, which they may not be able to afford, support in terms of taking that idea into a full commercial reality, really working in the hub, working with these entrepreneurs in the hub to really take their ideas from concept to commercialization. Because we're promoting one philosophy, and that is companies are not code. Because what was happening is that Nigerians are brilliant. Nigerian software developers, they've developed fantastic software. They go all over the world. They win these competitions because of the software they've developed. But they come back and they just start developing another software. We say, no, don't do that. Take that piece of software and let's create a company or a business around it. And so that's what we're doing.
Now, we understand that there is a fund called the National Information Technology Development Fund. How much is involved in that, and how has it been utilized so far?
The purpose of that fund is actually to develop the IT industry. That fund is managed under the National IT Development Agency, NITDA, and it's been deployed in a number of ways. We use it to actually fund the rural IT centers that you see all over the country. And this is because we understand that in terms of economic or financial strength, not every Nigerian can afford a tablet, a PC, or a phone. So we've got about 2,500 of these rural IT centers all across the country, which allow rural dwellers to actually come and learn about ICTs in the rural areas. They have deployed it to support universities. So there are a number of universities where we have actually put in computer labs for university students where they have fast internet and access to a computer. We have deployed it to support research in the ICT industry, so basically giving research grants because we need more empirical evidence to support our policies. So we've deployed that fund to support research in Nigerian universities. We've deployed that fund to actually sponsor Nigerian students who want to further their degrees in the ICT world, so sponsoring them to do PhDs in particular aspects of ICT. So it really is an IT development fund, and we've used that money. Actually, it was through the IT development fund that we funded the idea centers that we have in Yaba and Calabar, and hopefully in other places across the country.